All right, welcome to Council Club, friends. It is Thursday, August 12th somehow already, which is strange. Oh, someone has a cool background. I see City Council right there. All right, so in case this is anybody new, it's not someone new, but I'm continuing to admit people as we go here. But yeah, so Council Club, just a discussion group. There's no such thing as stupid questions. We are trying to lower the barriers to participation. We are certainly not experts. We just read and learn along with the rest of you. So if you have questions about anything, you don't really have to raise your hand. There is a decent turnout. Thanks everybody for coming. If you want to raise your hand with the little features, you can, or you can come off mute. It's casual as per usual, but we will jump into it. As probably everybody knows, the budget and CIP are being voted on this coming Tuesday. So we are going to go through kind of what the different dogs are already wrestling in the background, what the different kind of recommendations as far as amendments look like. So numbers 6 through 17, oh geez, it's wild back here, are budget and CIP amendments and proposals. So I know there was definitely a lot of testimony saying specifically the police have plenty of money. We do not need to give them another raise. We could probably spend that money in a lot smarter ways. That fell on deaf ears, unfortunately, because goodbye, Mr. Bill. There is no reallocation from the police budget that I saw. And if anybody else saw anything that I didn't, let me know. I was on another meeting until 5 and then sat on the deck for a minute to get away from the computer. So didn't really read every single line of it. But so the first one is $90,000 to the Community Alliance Family Education Service. Keep Omaha Beautiful gets $15,000 because of the storm damage. $40,000, this was from Councilwoman Johnson, number 8, $40,000 for a small business facilitator, like a consulting position for people wanting to start small businesses. $15,000 for a website consultant. I'm like, oh my goodness, could it be? We're finally going to get into the 20th century with our website, because it seems like it's not good. So we'll see about that. Workforce development, 40,000 there. Then we get to 300,000. So actually almost 1.8 million for the, I'm going to share my screen rather than just continuing to like read this at you. You can look with me. So this is what I'm talking about now for the North Saddle Creek Business District improvements. I did not read all that line by line. Did anybody else check that out? Read the attachment?
I read through it a little bit.
That's what I was wondering. Alex, tell us all about it.
Okay, well, first of all, it says that it's for improvements to keep with like the historical character of the neighborhood, and that they're going to form a BID to keep it up. And it says it's for improvements along Saddle Creek Road from Northwest Radial to 50th Street. And I was like, what does that even mean? Because like Northwest Radial Highway is basically like Cumming Street when it like curves. So then I was like, do they mean Northwest Radial Highway from Saddle Creek Road to 50th Street? Because that's like a mile. And so anyways, I don't know if anybody, like I was looking at the map and I couldn't figure it out. So I guess I don't even know exactly where it is, but I'm guessing it's kind of like that Pear Tree Performing Arts area.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Never heard of it before. Although I did hear Festerson talking about like a lot coming up in that area at a city council meeting a few weeks ago. So it also says it's like to be spent in coordination with developers in the area.
Interesting. All right. That brings me to somebody sent me some kind of like, I guess it was from when there was that Midtown 2050, the planning documents from a while ago. They specifically were talking about turning Saddle Creek back into a creek and a linear park. I don't know if any of you ever saw that document, but it's a little bit exciting there for a moment. I'm sure it won't involve that, but
So
After these floods, which still no one is freaking talking about. Yeah, Louise, what's up?
So there's no business improvement district in North Saddle Creek.
Is that a question or a statement? I think what Alex was saying is they're going to be creating one.
Okay, so this is basically a program, and they just switched the title from Business Improvement District to Business District Improvements. That's what I was confused with. So this is a new project, basically.
Yes, it says, so the attachment says, Councilman Festerson is introducing it, and it asks for the capital improvement program to be amended to add this project. It's a new project, and that the district will pursue an improvement district to maintain the improvements in the future.
Yeah, interesting. I think it's also interesting to see like where they take the money from. So you can see like urban design retrofit projects from 2018 transportation bonds. Those are decreasing in order to create, yeah, the business district improvements. But I guess for some reason, I thought that the CIP was just like, yeah, infrastructure and not planning. But as we will see a little bit later, there also is money in it for just a study. So I learn something new all the time, I suppose. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Oh crap, I just closed the agenda. That's a good idea. Anyway, so we'll see what that ends up being, but it's not no money. So 1.5 million and then another 300,000. So all right, anything else on that before we go to 12 and 13, which I'm kind of excited about?
So, okay, never mind.
You can.
No, I was just going to talk about the pre-meeting.
Oh yeah.
But that could be.
Man, we're doing this all wrong. We usually talk about what happened last week first. We got way too excited about all this jazz. All right, we're gonna pretend like we're starting again because we should talk about what happened last week.
Yeah.
All right, rewind. Everybody start again. We're gonna talk about what happened last time first.
So even before last Tuesday meeting at 2 o'clock, there was a pre-meeting at 10:30.
Yeah, pre-council.
Pre-council, where they talked about the flood. That's the only sort of official. And you said you listened to did you listen to it? No, you listened. Oh,
No.
wait, you listened to the budgetary. That's even further
Department
back.
said, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so a real deep cut from last week, we talked about trying to get the recordings from all the department heads who presented to council about all of their budget requests. And I was able to get the audio recording. It's like hard to kind of go through, you know, because I think it's like 2 hours or something like that. And it kind of cuts out in the middle. It's not very user friendly, but it does exist. So if anybody is interested in that, I can email it to you. I just emailed the clerk and she's always quick to respond. So I shout out to city clerks because they're doing their jobs. But I didn't listen to all of it. It's good to know that you can have it, but it was too long to listen to. And then by the time it actually mattered, it was too late. But speaking of meetings that are not, you know, well publicized, I think that's the point with the pre-council situation is there's important information that shows up in pre-council and then it isn't widely disseminated, you know. Again, I think there's an audio recording that you can request, but I think when it's a freaking disaster and there's talk of, you know, emergency disaster funding that we might be applying for because it was that big of a deal, the citizenry of Omaha should be informed and not just like through happening to listen to a pre-council meeting that is supposedly no big deal. It's just really, I'm super pissed actually still that there's no real communication coming from City Hall about a pretty big deal for a lot of folks in Omaha.
No, I think a lot of people feel, I don't know if high and dry is the right, just ignored. And it's interesting how they spent probably 15, 20 minutes in pre-council talking about the storm, talking about the sewers collapse, what is Public Works doing, what are resources, but none of that information gets out. And then when they go to actual city council, Sarah got called out of order for the first time for talking about the floods. And they're like, it's just frustrating for like those that are paying attention. Yeah, and the mayor is definitely ignoring it. So don't quit holding your breath for her to make a statement on the second flood in a row. And it was really interesting. If you go back on her Facebook page, she actually warned of a flash flood, I think July 30th. And I had to look it up. It was a Friday when the warning came over for a flash flood. And then this last one, it was Saturday. And we know she doesn't work on Saturdays and Sundays. So it's our fault for having another weather event on a weekend when we don't have a mayor. It's just it's frustrating.
Totally. And there's a good point about like the opening, every week it rotates who gets to have like opening statements. It was Melton this last time, and she did not say anything about the flood either. She decided to talk about back to school. An opportunity missed once again. Yeah, Louise, what's up?
So a pre-meeting, they use that to go over the budget. I mean, the agenda.
Right.
And I've been going to pre-meetings for like the last few years, as much as I can, and they've never discussed like something that's not on the agenda on pre-meeting.
Yep.
So the first time was a few weeks ago when all those trees fell, and then now it seems the second time now is with the flooding. So it seems to me that they should be having a different meeting for those things, and
Yes.
and not like because the pre-meeting is about the actual agenda.
Exactly.
So I don't know what they're trying to do. They're just trying to do too much in one day, I think it sounds like, especially for an emergency situation.
That's the thing that pisses me off the most is like, this isn't just like a minor little thing. It's like people's businesses have literally been shifted off the foundation. Like, I don't know, we don't know how many people have been affected, but from the internet, a lot of social media accounts that I follow, a lot of people are hurting and don't know what the resources look like and aren't getting any help. And it just seems like an extreme oversight, and just like blatant ignorance, and lack of leadership, lack of empathy, like lack of common sense. Like it's really upsetting. I don't like it at all. So yeah, I tried to kind of like sneak in my thoughts last week, and I got called out of order by Melton and Brinker, which I almost want to be like, that's out of order, you jerks, because only the president gets to call someone out of order. And Pete kind of let me finish, and I did wrap it back around to, it was the item that I was speaking on was about the spending for the NP Dodge flood mitigation from the 2019 flood. So it's like, I just tried to kind of figure out where the word flood was on the agenda and then bring up my own flood feelings. It almost worked. It was cathartic for me. And then actually right after me, our friend Cindy, not Mary Poppins Cindy, who's on here sometimes, but another Cindy, she spoke in support of the libraries and talked about how she was happy that the libraries were safe places and helpful during the pandemic, and then like turn it into, and also I am bummed that people aren't wearing masks. And then Festerson was like, oh, whoopsie daisy, I'm gonna have to call you out of order. It's not what we're talking about on the agenda. So just kind of interesting to see how people are trying to like figure out, I mean, it's just Cindy and I, but trying to figure out how to bring up things that we want to talk about when they're not on the agenda, because the city ignores things that are important and devastating that are happening to our community.
And
It sounds
unfortunately,
like they're out of order
Yeah.
with the emergency discussion during pre-meeting, because here in pre-meeting, it says discussion topics. 3, discussion of agenda items and matters pertaining thereto. If the emergency situation isn't on the official agenda, then they're not following their own pre-council agenda.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I think that that's something that I don't know exactly the right way to bring that up, but I feel like if enough of us keep trying to bring up things that are not on the agenda, obviously important things that multiple folks want to talk about. Yeah, I don't know. I'm open definitely to other people's opinions on like how we can get them to pay attention, or how we can get them to like the county allows just kind of an open listening session. If it's not on the agenda, you still can speak, which I I guess the city council used to do that and then they changed it so that they don't allow that anymore. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, a couple of things for that, like as far as like leads to climate change, is like,
Mhm.
a couple weeks ago on the agenda, there was that rezoning of like 77th and Dodge from industrial to commercial, but that was in a floodplain. So
Yes,
that feels, and so like that, there's going to be a lot of stuff coming up about that on the agenda. So just looking for 77th and Dodge stuff. And then
yes,
also UNMC is doing that new innovation hub along Saddle Creek in an area that floods a lot. And they're going to be coming up to the planning board and city council within like 6 to 8 weeks. So I think that'd be a really appropriate time to talk about, to get people organized, to talk about not moving forward, especially because some of that car parking, the city is going to be spending a lot of money for a parking garage with that development.
yeah.
So I think that would be a great time to get organized around talking about not moving forward with developments along Saddle Creek until there's a climate action plan.
Yes, excellent. And that was the other thing that I tried to like kind of sneak into my testimony on Tuesday was like, some of you ran on climate and I'm not hearing peep out of anybody about this. And it's ridiculous. And I think that it's like past the time for us to acknowledge the reality, which is things are not getting better. The 200-year storms are now 2-week storms or 2-year storms. Like these events are coming more severely and more regularly, and we're doing nothing about them except for ignore it. And I'm real sick of it.
I was surprised there wasn't any additions to the budget for climate change by anyone either, you know.
The only thing that, yes, 100%. Also, not really that surprised, but like there should have been. And yes, nothing about housing. I think that they're pointing to that like ARPA money and trying to like just be like, oh, well, we'll just deal with some of this stuff with that money. It's like, no, how about both? Like a testifier at the budget hearing said, like, okay, that and this, because we've got a lot of problems that can't all just be solved with that one chunk of money. Yeah, just really frustrating.
But I do think it's important that people like Sarah continue to talk at city council.
Like all of us.
But what was unfortunately, we noticed that the media, which Channel 3 is usually there filming on the side, they left maybe like 2 hours into it. After the hour and a half on rezoning, they're like tapping out. And then there was a whole basically half hour on a generator for a wall versus a tree screening. But usually when, sometimes when we talk, we get on the news. And I feel like if we keep talking about climate change, we're gonna get on the news eventually. And it doesn't matter that they keep ignoring us. People that are paying attention are gonna realize that, yes, climate change is real. And yes, the city council is ignoring it. So keep it up.
Yeah, I think there will hopefully be, I mean, you could talk about climate change and zoning, because like, as long as we continue to sprawl and not understand that density is good, that's, like there's a lot of different ways that I think it would be interesting to kind of like continue to thread this through.
Yeah, I've seen in agendas in the past year where they're approving public works buying, like transferring private property to public works for flood control along the Missouri River.
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah, just saying it comes up in all sorts of places. And I think we can find at least one agenda item per week to talk on.
I'd love that. I think that, I mean, obviously that's why we gather, is so that we can kind of like gang up on the agenda and make sure that the city council hears what we're thinking about. But I'd love to, figure out who's gonna, I mean, and hopefully more and more of us, not just like, okay, it's your week. It's like, who all can go this week and talk about this? Because I think that's the way that we'll really get them to pay attention. Louise, what's up?
I have an idea for the climate change. The zonings can be used to look into how the areas are being used. There's industrial parks, industrial zonings, so the municipal codes can dictate like how much carbon is being emitted or what have you in those areas. So I think one way to deal with climate change is to look into the types of zonings throughout the city because I mean, residential areas, you know, that they're probably, those areas are probably contributing too much to climate change. So
I'd push back on that a little bit. Or maybe Brian's going to, because he's part of the missing middle stuff. Do you want to take this one, Brian, or do you want me to push back on why residential zoning is important for climate change?
I'm not saying, this just a thought.
We'll
As
get
a separate, as a separate point, maybe, but I was just going to mention that even if we had these flood districts, you just have Nebraska Furniture Mart looking for a waiver in the flood districts right next to the Papio Creek anyways. So what's the point of a flood district if you have enough money to just override it?
Yeah. Okay, well then I'm going to talk about why residential zoning is important when it comes to climate change, because if we keep sprawling forever and building all these car dependent suburbs, we're not ever going to get real about bike, walk, bus. And that is what is going to reverse some of the issues that we are dealing with.
And I'll just add in there also that there's really nowhere else to build but in a floodplain. So that's not good either.
True. And it's been interesting to hear some of the conversations from the folks that have been affected by this most recent flood who don't have flood insurance. And then there's different, I mean, like insurance is a racket anyway, right? But like flood insurance of a specific type, you know, like there's, oh, well, that was seepage, groundwater flooding. It wasn't riverbank flooding. And so I don't know. Yeah, it's just kind of interesting to see, first of all, again, how little communication there is around resources and how to deal with some of this stuff. And also just how we will all adapt or not moving forward. All right, Cindy has a question about open comments. So we were talking about that a little bit right before you hopped on, and there did used to be an opportunity for open comment period like there is at Douglas County. There is not currently at City Council, which Cindy, that's why it was cool of you to try to, you know, find what you could to make it sort of germane to the agenda so that you could bring up what you wanted to bring up.
And on Cindy's, going back to what Cindy said specifically about the masks and COVID, Tuesday, Douglas County has the health director. I believe she gives an update every week. And so there would be, I think there would, if there wouldn't be a specific, you may not be able to comment on her specifically, but then they do open it up to, is there anything not on the agenda that you'd like to talk about? I think that would be a place, because if you remember, Dr. Adi Poor tried to get the mask mandate, then Pete Ricketts threatened to sue. Now we have a new health director. So I kind of feel like we need to start a county commissioner club and support group like council club. But then also we need to start attending those meetings. And I think we need to start talking about specifically Omaha inside of the Douglas County meetings, because there is that, just to get them on the same page and just to get them people to listen. Yeah, and just to vent.
Yeah, the more they hear it, the more they'll hopefully eventually listen. Before we call on you, Louise, I wanted to see, Cindy, did you want to come off mute and ask about last week's items 8 and 9? That was the zoning stuff, right? Where like they just talked for however long they wanted. Is that what you were?
The Dundee rezoning and the Keystone, I think.
No, I apologize because I really am still such a neophyte as far as the city council and
No
all
shame.
the zoning stuff.
We
is
refuse
just-
your apology. Not necessary.
well, I was listening on my way driving downtown and to the agenda item 8. And it struck me the difference between how that one was handled versus number 9. And I'm wondering, does that happen very often? Is it that just glaring of, is it?
So do you want to explain what you saw
Okay, so
or heard, I guess?
they were talking about, is it Keystone or,
Yeah.
okay, so there was a gentleman that is Black who was proposing some sort of development, which sounds like it would be a way to have some, affordable housing or more options for his neighborhood. And some people are basically not in my backyard. about it. And I don't know if it's necessarily the owner or if it was just the type of development. But the city council treated that particular request very differently than the one next that was on the agenda, where it was a white developer who sounds like maybe is more experienced and has more projects in front of the city council. But
He
I
didn't
just,
have a plan though still. I mean,
no,
that was the similarity to me.
it was the exact same
Yes.
situation, but the only difference either was the experience level and or the
Color of his skin. I'll
color.
say it. Yeah.
I was gobsmacked. That's the only word I could think of to describe how shocking it was to me, because it was just blatant. And I wondered about it because I don't follow this, and I wondered, does this happen like every week or very often? Or
The whole NIMBY thing, not in my backyard, happens all the time. And I will say that I have definitely seen different treatment from the council depending on either the neighborhood or, but the thing that specifically struck me about this was that one guy, they were like, well, you need more plans before we can approve anything. And the other guy was like, you need more plans before we can approve anything. And it's like, oh, just kidding. We'll approve this one, but not this one.
yes,
So, yeah.
I was just, I don't know why I keep getting surprised.
That's
It's-
what you'll learn the more you're at city council is you're like, oh, this shit's bad. Like, this is not surprising. And it's, still surprising.
in the open comment period, I'm so sorry, because I don't want to, I'll stop then, but
No.
who do we ask to reinstate that? If they used to do it in the past, is it listed somewhere about how long they did it and when they stopped and why and how we can, because I'm apoplectic about this. I am so angry still. And I know when I saw you when I left on Tuesday, I actually had tears in my eyes, which I'm not someone who just like cries at the drop of a hat. I was so mad. And the city council didn't address it whatsoever. And we had thousands and thousands of kids that went to school this week. So the bigger issue that I wanted to ask about was about open comments, because I feel like as a citizen, I have no way to talk about these
Aside
things.
from emailing them and hoping they respond, which, sometimes that's hit and miss. I'm wondering if it wouldn't be would it be a charter thing? Does anybody have the answer to that?
I think it'd be
it could
similar
a-
to our address waiver, how we got that by just emailing the clerk. I think we started asking the clerk.
That's always my go-to because she
Okay.
responds more than Pete does for me. But
Okay, so
that could be something that we could all tag team on. I like it when we group email about
Mhm.
stuff. Like, so if everybody's willing, email your city council person and copy the clerk and copy me if you want. You don't
I'm
have
gonna copy you because
Yeah.
I'm so angry
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
My city councilor he has my number. He still didn't pick up the phone or
Yeah.
nothing, just nothing. And I'm just beyond upset that there's no way to try to bring,
I'll make
there
a note
really
of
is,
that. Yeah.
there's no
all-
way to do it.
Yeah, let's all I'll put it out on the interwebs too, but I'm making a little to-do list and
We've joked about when people's first time, because I spoke at city council for the first time, I think last year, and I was super nervous, but we talked about giving each other badges, like so you could put it on your Facebook profile, like I have the first time testifier. But then another one is, which I believe you were in, Cindy, was first time being called out of order. And so we want to give you that badge. And then, oh yeah.
maybe we'll have fun stickers for folks who testify. Like if you actually show up at city council, maybe we'll reward you with fun, weird stickers.
Yeah, almost like Girl Scouts.
Yeah, like a
Or,
badge.
yeah, like the
Like,
badges.
I got the out of order badge. Merit
Yeah.
badges. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but, yeah.
All right. Well, I really like that idea. All right, Louise, you've been holding your hand up like a perfect gentleman. What's happening?
Thank you. I do have some ideas to what Cindy is talking about and with the county with their open discussion. It's called at the county agenda. It's called citizens comments. Anything that's not an agenda that citizens can discuss. And Sarpent County had it too on their county agenda, but it got removed. So Douglas County still has it, which is good, but it has to pertain to county government. So if we organize and we show up to the county meeting and we want to talk about what the mayor is doing, they might actually say that's out of order. So to Cindy's point, to put the citizen comments on the Omaha agenda, that would be the better attempt, or because if it's an issue that is for the citizens of Omaha, you want to talk to your council members, you want to talk to the mayor of Omaha. So I think maybe sending a request to get it back, you might want to start with the chief of staff, because he works directly with the council members more so than the city clerk.
Yeah, Downing.
Jim Dowding. Yeah, and then I think it's not an issue with the city charter. I think it's an issue with their rules of order.
Mhm.
So a council member would probably can bring it forward to the as an agenda item, and see if the other council members will go. I think probably Councilor Johnson would probably be open to that more than anybody else. I don't think Festerson or Palermo would be open to that. Maybe Begley, but I think Johnson definitely would probably want to have more free-flowing discussion, because not everything, and sometimes not at all, items come up and they're not pertaining to North Omaha, when there's a lot of work to be done in North Omaha. It's more
She ran on Real
and
Talk too.
development.
Yeah.
What's that?
Johnson ran on Real Talk. That was part of her platform. So if she's into Real Talk, she should like real feedback. Cool. All right. No, that's all good. Yeah. So maybe let's all just try to email different folks and see who responds. That's also another fun way to do it, because sometimes we don't really know the best way to get things answered. So just do a little bit of buckshot and see what hits. I don't know. Keep us posted. All right.
What's your email, Sarah? If I can copy you then.
Yeah, mine is I'll drop it in the chat. It's just Sarah at omahabicycleco.com.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I get a lot of CC or BCC, and either's fine. All right, cool. Were you gonna say something?
Just about, so last week, one other interesting item was the Good Life Bar got a new liquor license approved. And for those that were paying attention, this is the one where they sold liquor to underage Christmas last year, and there was a pretty nasty crash. They showed the body cam footage of the bar owner basically tampering with evidence. I had to go back and rewatch this most recent one, because again, they sold the bar because they were getting in pretty hot water. They were going to lose their liquor license. They were going to lose everything.
Yeah, they were breaking the law and they got busted and they didn't like it and it didn't go well for them.
And then, but Festerson defended the city council's non-action, because they just kicked the can down the road and said, well, we're going to wait and see. And he was like, well, that wait and see is basically what kind of precipitated the sale of the business to who the new guy seems like. He actually has no strikes on, he owns Jams and Pitch, and they have been a lot better. They haven't got any strikes for selling to minors, any tavern reports. But it was more interesting how Festerson had to defend the city council's non-action, and that he said that there are charges are still being, I don't know, made for tampering with evidence. That dude got, I forget his name, but the former owner got a warrant for tampering for evidence for another incident. So I'm not even, it's so hard to keep track of. But yeah, that was last week, Good Life Bar. It'd be interesting to see if charges ever do come, specifically from that body cam footage of him saying that he deleted the video of them selling to minors or ID the kid. anyways, that was last
There was
week.
a guy from Project Extra Mile who actually had some thoughtful testimony about drunk driving and serving to minors and all that stuff. And it was not totally brushed off by the council, but it seemed, I don't know, just seemed like he did a good job and kind of got, I don't know.
Well, and he was saying that basically the Good Life Bar got away with, because they sold the business in time, that now the charges are going to be, now that tampering with evidence is just going to be brushed aside. And it sets a precedent for other bar owners that if it's okay to sell to minors, and if you get caught, well, you just have to sell your business and you walk away with the bank, or you get paid and have a good day. And so that's what Pedestrian kind of had to say, well, actually, they're still in trouble and we did the right thing by not doing anything. It's like, yeah, silly.
Indeed. All right, we'll keep going. I know, I think that we talked a little bit about the generator already.
Yeah,
Just
the
about
trees,
how,
the screaming trees.
yeah, I thought they said something about tree screaming, but it was tree screening, not nearly as exciting. But that was one of those where it's like rarely does the planning board recommend a denial. And that was the case on that one. All right, and then we talked about how, yeah, the flood we talked about, Cindy about libraries. Okay, cool. Anything else that anyone want to talk about from last meeting before we head on to what's going to happen this coming Tuesday?
Moving on.
Seeing none. All right. For the upcoming meeting on it's the 17th.
So one thing that about this meeting coming up on the 17th, there are budget and CIP resolutions, but there is going to be no public hearing and they will vote on Tuesday. So we were saying how like we need to email our council members before Tuesday, before next week, to talk specifically about items 6 through 17, number 12, the bike ped master plan, and number 13, making Harney Street permanent. And so if any of the other resolutions, specifically budget and CIP, you're not gonna have a chance to talk. So you gotta email them or however you contact your member before Tuesday.
I think that's just dumb that we can't discuss the freaking amendments. That they should make an exception to this because it's not like a regular thing.
Yep. Yeah, we get one chance to talk about the budget. One chance only.
Well, and I'm guessing that their justification for it, and I agree it's stupid, but the justification is in the midst of any other public hearing where they don't have a separate meeting for it, when they make amendments, we don't get a chance to comment again or unless called up during it. So this is how they're kind of doing it in the regular course of order. If there was testimony and then they decide to amend any other resolution or process, we don't get a second chance to rebuttal on those amendments. That's now for them to discuss. And the assumption is they've heard all they need to hear. And so our only opportunity is to then submit our comments now for them to read and then possibly make amendments to those amendments while they're discussing.
Well, they can open public hearing or keep it open. I think that they should keep the budget hearing open for the amendments because every year that I've attended council, they've had amendments to the budget and they've kept the public hearings open in the past for other agenda items. And it's something they can change with the rules too.
So then I think that's definitely something then as you're submitting testimony in on these amendments that we say, make a request that they keep the public hearing open for these amendments in your writings. And I think that's something specifically you should write to Juanita Johnson, because again, real talk, and say, ask her to make a request to open up the public hearings on these amendments.
I love it. No, I think that's a lot of good points.
And then I think we already said this, but so nowhere in the amendments is there any talk of reduction of police funding. And I'll just rewind to last week when we had 38 people stand up and testify, and all 38 of them said, do something about the police funding. And what do they do? Nothing. So I don't know if they can still make amendments. I feel like they can make amendments right up until Tuesday, are they on the agenda? So, yeah, it's just kind of shocking that at least they're doing something with the bike infrastructure on the CIP. But man, it was just a chorus of people's do something about the increased police budget. And what do? Absolutely nothing.
Oh, I will tell you, true. What I heard when I was listening to the recordings of the department heads, when the police were proposing their $5 million increase, Festerson did say, what happens if we don't approve it? Like, what happens if we don't give you the additional raise this year? And Todd, the schmod, said that it was all pretty much for personnel. So it was basically like, oh, well, we're going to take away 50 cops. That's 100,000 per year per cop. So you just lose 50 cops. So it also, and that's the thing that's complicated and that I don't fully understand is like the police budget is tied to their contract, and the contract was negotiated already and approved, and that shows an increase in pay every year. So I feel like they're going to do what they want to do, and that is give the police a raise. But I just feel like I don't understand. It's just complicated, I guess. And I also don't understand, like every week, there was just last week, I think over $1 million for police outfits. And it's like, they just continue to get gear and raises, personnel, gear, night goggles, I don't understand that. Does anyone? Reading some chat here.
Just a quick side note, that if there's an objection on the course of the things that are happening during the meeting, then the president can do a ruling. So a council member other than the president can object to somebody's comments, and then the president can rule on that. And apparently for you, Sarah, last week that you got called out of order and Festerson let you speak, kind of. That's also something that I've never seen happen. If another council member objects, it's always ruled out of order. So Festerson kind of.
He runs a real loosey-goosey meeting, that I do know. Like the whole speak for however long you want, and then also. I loved watching him call you out of order, Cindy, because he's so like, oh, whoopsie daisy. You did a little bit of, okay. It's real like wishy-washy. But yeah, I wanted to tell freaking Harding that he was out of order for calling me out of order. But I don't know. Yeah. Not a great meeting runner, if you ask me, that Festerson fella. But good points as far as like how maybe next week will go. It'll be interesting to watch. But I think the bottom line is everyone that's on the council has no desire to reallocate any police funding. I think that was made abundantly clear.
So Johnny asked about
other budgetary accounts.
Yeah, like they're taking money from, you said that one of them was taking money from intersections. So they're taking money from different departments. Oh, but then it says other.
Yeah, I was wondering, because as far as I looked, and maybe I was looking in the wrong place, but I clicked through to each one and it just said other budgetary accounts. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, where is the money actually coming from?
That's a great question. I don't have the answer either.
I think if it's in the CIP, isn't that sort of just like future monies? We'll figure it out in 2 years, but they definitely put for, one of them was for retaining walls. Mm-hmm. And so they get pretty specific with where the money comes from. If they wanted to say the word police, they could certainly say that, but that's just like untouchable. But I think other just literally means like we'll figure it out, especially if it's in the CIP.
Yeah, CIP, is for the next 6 years, and the budget is just for this coming year. So I think that's a good point too. But yeah, I don't know what just some of that other means.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was just me, because like CIP is like bonds and like grants and stuff, but I don't know, because like the general fund is like taxes and other things, but I was just like, where is it? Where is the money being moved from?
So
So
there is the, oh, go ahead, Alex.
I clicked on that $15,000 for Keep Omaha Beautiful for the attachment. And when you scroll down to like the second page, it says budget, general fund, and then under that it says other budgetary accounts miscellaneous. And then under that it says community service programs. And under that it says non-personnel. Is like that what the other budget, and I assume that's different for each one of these amendments. So I wonder if that like second page in the attachments is maybe telling us where in these other budgetary accounts the money's coming from. Do you see what I'm saying? Is that maybe what that means?
Yeah, I think, yeah, that clears it up a little bit.
So
Right.
it looks like the 15,000 in parentheses is a subtraction. So they're moving it from contingency liability expenditure and they're moving it to administrative costs. That because in accounting, numbers in parentheses is a minus.
Right.
Is this the one that said, not the Keep Omaha Beautiful?
I'm looking in the proposed budget and around pages 168, 169 is where they're taking most of those dollars from. So they're really just shuffling the existing budget to other line items.
Mhm.
So it makes me wonder where they're shifting it off of. Like they had pre-planned amounts of money.
Well, so it looks like they're just taking from one community service to put to another, is what essentially, so they're decreasing the Keep Omaha Beautiful money, right? Is that what I'm reading correctly, or were they trying to increase?
I think they're
think
trying to
They're
increase.
giving them money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because now I'm looking at the one about the bike and pedestrian master plan. And I scroll down and it has the parentheses around major intersection improvements.
Yes, that one I'm
So
excited
that
about.
means
That
they're
means they're
taking money
taking it.
away from
Yeah.
intersection improvements into, okay, that makes sense. That helps.
That one made me extra happy because I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's like defund intersection widening and give it to the bikes.
So I think that's pretty interesting. That's the only mention of recent storms.
Yeah, that's so. I'm gonna share a screen again here. This is on the Keep Omaha Beautiful thing. Again, it's the only mention that I think Manny maybe brought it up earlier about climate change or something and how there wasn't anything. The only thing they're talking about is recent storms here. with this
15,000.
$15,000. So, anywho.
So they're not talking about it. They mentioned it in the attachment.
Yeah. But that contingency liability expense, non-personnel. I mean, and then it's like, the funds and the organizations and the accounts, like it's just so flippin' complicated. I think that's like part of the design too, is to make it so complicated. I mean, I'm sure, yes, running a city is complicated, but some of this stuff is just like, whew, it's a lot. All right.
Which one's the community services item? I'm trying to find it because I think that as progressives, we should be demanding the city budget include more money, like millions of dollars for community services. That line item needs to be like,
and that
1%.
that is kind of an interesting point that I was noticing too, is just like, the some of these community service programs are like tens of thousands of dollars. They're not big ticket item. It's like 90,000 for the family education service, Community Alliance Family Education Services. Again, 15,000 to Keep Omaha Beautiful, 40,000 for the small business, So there's another 40,000 for the Nebraska Center for Workforce Development and Education. None of these are like very exciting amounts. Honestly, that's why I was kind of blown away with the fact that like the biggest amendments, and again, the CIP, I think it's very important to remind ourselves that the CIP means exactly nothing if they want it to mean nothing, because the Harney Street Bikeway has already been in and out of the CIP. So, while I'm trying to celebrate the little wins when we get them, and I will consider this, the 3 million for Harney Street and then the $1.25 million for the bike ped master plan as, like little wins. We'll see, I'll believe it when I see it, like I've been saying for a decade. I don't know, it's better than nothing. And now we just have to hold them to it and say, okay, no, we saw you put it in there and we want to make sure that it stays in there and we want to watch this thing get built. And it'll be interesting to see because hopefully it'll get enough votes, but the mayor could still veto it if for some reason she decides that she really hates bikes as much as sometimes it seems like she does. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens after they hopefully approve some of these items.
I need some clarity. I've heard 3 million and 1.5 million. So the bicycle and pedestrian master plan is getting one. Can you just summarize what's going on with the bicycle situation?
Yes. So number 12, which I think I'm screen sharing here, is for the bike ped master plan implementation. So right now, and actually that's further down the agenda, 37 and 38, I think. Yeah, is the mini grant for the bike ped master plan. So it's basically MAPPA and the city are working together. And Manny, hop in here because I feel like you might know more, and or as per usual, anyone correct me if I'm misstating something, but MAPPA and the city were working to get you know, some public engagement going. Here specifically, public engagement is named on number 38, and then the approval of this mini grant for the master plan to happen. And then in the CIP, I think that is talking about the implementation of what they decide. So the master plan implementation program. I don't even know. Like I said, I didn't have enough time to read all the attachments. But so number 12 is for the bike ped master plan implementation, and then number 13 is the total of 3 million for Harney Street. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes.
Manny, do you have anything to add to that?
No, it sounds right to me. I don't know. Yeah, that all sounded pretty much right to me.
Okay.
So it sounds like Festersen's going to keep his campaign promise.
Yeah, good. That's excellent. I emailed him thank you in all caps as soon as I read the agenda. It's like, that's good. You get a little pat on the head. All right. So since we've got screen sharing happening here, this one, I don't know what Riverfront Redevelopment Special Tax Fund revenues. I don't also, again, I'm sorry I didn't read through all these as detailed as sometimes I do. Does anyone know what's going on with that one?
As far as I understand, special tax, it must be money from that riverfront area. So
Yeah.
there's like islands across the city that have a special assessment. So,
Yeah.
so if you go into the facilities in those areas, you have tax, and then that tax money goes to a fund.
Yeah, like the Blackstone has one, and yeah. So I guess that's talking about the Riverfront Redevelopment Special Tax Fund. Okay, cool. I'm gonna stop screen sharing and then look at our notes again.
I think most of that funding is just to rework the sewers and whatnot down there, especially since they're adding, you know, a museum and other facilities now.
Luminarium. Yeah, there was, I mean, speaking of, you know, more flood information, disinformation, misinformation, there's a lot of chit chat about how the Jean Leahy redevelopment construction project did or did not contribute to some of the flooding issues.
Yeah, they specifically cover up the sewer grates with those hay mats so that mud does not go into the sewers during construction. But I mean, just like Brian posted that amazing video of Saddle Creek flooding, there wasn't construction around there. I mean, Saddle Creek floods because it's a creek. And also, I think it flooded out 168.
Yeah, but you should see the sewer grates on Saddle Creek right now. They are a mountain of mud. Water couldn't get in there.
Yep.
Yeah. And again, we'll all just continue to guess and wonder what's being done and what, you know, resources are available, since I apparently am
Sarah, from what you heard at the pre-meeting discussion about the most recent flood, if one was to say want to learn more, would like Public Works be the folk? Like if you wanted to say like,
Yeah.
why did sewers fail? Where did sewers fail?
Yeah,
Can you tell me why 36th and Center flooded while that doesn't seem like it's at the bottom of the hill? So would Public Works
Right.
be the right people to reach out to
Yes.
about this? Do any?
yeah,
And Jim Tyler, is he Public Works?
yep. Jim Tyler and
Jim
then
Tyler on Twitter, like,
actually
I
responsive.
can't believe how like responsive he was. And people kept saying like, when is the mayor gonna make a comment? And Jim Tyler would come in and be like, I'm not the mayor. Or he didn't even say he's not the mayor. He just would say, we're working on this. We think there was a sewer collapse here. So yeah, he's a great person just to kind of have just conversations on Twitter. He actually replies. I got some really good answers on recycling. Like, I'm really surprised at how good he is at his job.
So you feel
So
like
you-
maybe like reaching out to him, we could amass information to put together a better understanding of what happened. And so to create better testimony going forward, if we do want to like bring these sorts of things up in city council meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And just look at his Twitter feed. Look at he replies to a bunch of people, and I think mainly on Twitter, maybe Facebook as well. But yeah, it's all publicly available.
I would say also if like their email addresses, so if he's responsive, then I would also just send him a direct email. But because the question that I've been wondering for a while is like, we're still in the midst of fixing the Clean Solutions for Omaha, the CSO project, to widen all of our sewer as directed by the federal government and the EPA for being in violation for decades and decades. We were amongst several national cities that had to be put under this violation and were at the risk of being fined. And that's why our MUD bills were supposed to go up. This was something that started 10 years ago, over 10 years ago. And they've been slowly pulling money out of that budget, which was specifically to to address these storms, because stormwater for much of our eastern half of the city was going into people's homes. That's mitigated the worst part of the problem, but the whole problem is not solved. So I think if you're reaching out to him, it's also asking, where are we at on that CSO project? Because I never get any answers on that of where are we at? Are we finished? This was another one of those flash flooding. Yes, they had dealt with the majority of it, but I think compounding with the number, with getting rid of Gene Leahy, with never addressing Saddle Creek, we're now seeing the fruits of that labor not being finished yet too.
Cami, that was really interesting. Could you write that in the chat so I can like copy and paste that for later?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here, Cami Watkins, for all sorts of reasons. All right, cool. So yeah, I think that we should all, just definitely email. There's lots of emails to be done. So keep me posted on how that goes. I'm excited to hear if anyone responds. But yeah, based on, like Scott was saying, on at least Tyler's Twitter activity, he seems to care more than some. The other person who you could email who might not care is Todd Fitzer, who is the one who's like, well, it was a 200-year event and we couldn't afford to deal with it if we, so he's kind of the worst, but you should also harass him because
I thought
He's an idiot. Why is he the city engineer?
oh, I didn't even say that. Wow. I have a decade-long history of not much fun with that guy.
Yeah, I said it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Louise. All right. I guess we.
Oh, real quick. So yeah, what last Fitzer's comment that was replayed on the news a bunch was, it wouldn't be impossible to fix Saddle Creek, but it would cost, I think he said $100 million. And I've just been sort of tallying up how many. So they said that I know specifically that one downtown garage that flooded. They said that there was 50 cars that were totaled in there. 50 cars times 25,000 per car is at $1 million. And then all the businesses and just like the Coneco easily had $1 million in damage. The boiler room lost their wine cellar. I'm just like, we can get pretty quick to 100 million in damages for inaction. but we can't afford it. It's just like the city can't afford it, but the city of Omaha, I should say, can't afford it. They're putting it on the citizens of Omaha.
We can't afford not to prepare for things like this happening in the future because we know this is not going to be the last one. And even though Fitzer likes to think that it's a once in a 200-year situation, like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Okay.
And I had responded that it's easy to find $100 million to expand freeways and interstates. You know, West Dodge Road was more than 100 million.
Oh yeah, they got money for cars storage all day long. They've got 129 million in the CIP for parking structures, which store private property. Like, that's bonkers. You want to talk about where's the money? We're spending it all on putting more cars on the road and then storing them.
So one of the things that, to that point, about interstates and things, if we are paying attention, one of the federal parts of the federal infrastructure plan is to address taking down interstates that went through low-income neighborhoods and destroyed them.
Yes.
So that's definitely something to be paying attention to.
Yes.
And if we're talking about how do we start to mitigate and all of that, that might be something also to be bringing up, or just keeping an eye on as they continue to talk about additional traffic.
Totally. I really would love to see some interstates torn down. That would be just a very good thing for so many reasons. We'll see.
Who's Jim? What does he do?
Jim Tyler, I want to say he's with environmental services. I think sewer, recycling.
Oh, he's a city employee.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
But man, when my first conversation with on Twitter, I'm like, wait a second, you work at Public Works, like,
And you're responding?
Like, I was completely just like, do you want to lose your job? Like,
Yeah, let's not like be too much on him because he might get noticed by the mayor.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's what I'm saying. Email him directly, privately to his work email.
Yes.
Cool. All right. So after all the budget and CIP stuff, then it's just like a regular old meeting. There are, liquor licenses. Scott pointed out the waistline postage for mailers. He
It's
loves
specific-
waistline.
Well, it's more interesting that so I think most of us got those waistline postage mailers with the, when is your recycling day? What week is recycling? Or maybe it had to do with the new carts, but they specifically sent them to 142,000 people, which it's interesting. We just got the census that says that there was 480,000 residents in Omaha, but Waistline sends them to 142. Just an interesting number. That means to me that there's probably 142,000 addresses that Waistline picks up recycling from. Just an interesting number to think about.
Yeah, I guess so. You're saying why didn't it go to all?
No, I think there's 2 in here, so.
I know, but even if you double that number, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I just feel
I think most people, yeah, at least if not 2 or more.
Bye, Johnny. Thanks for hanging. We'll totally talk about merit badges. I think that would be hilarious.
This is interesting. I like numbers. I like data.
That's true. You do. Okay, 37 and 38 were about that MAPA City of Omaha bike ped master plan stuff and public engagement. So that is exciting. We'll be following what that will look like. There's going to be like a committee too, which I'm like, how are they going to figure out who's on that committee? Is that going to be an extremely frustrating committee to be on? Should I apply and get denied? Because if the mayor has anything to do with it, all the other ones I've applied to be on have been laughed away. The ones I've been on, I've been removed from. Anyway, that'll be interesting to see.
Number 39 is the concert at Memorial Park with Garth Brooks. The reason I'm bringing this one up is because I don't think masks are going to be mandatory at the concert. And a good friend of ours just got positive COVID, and he said that he's pretty sure that he got it at an outdoor music event. I don't know if it was Maha or something else, but there's going to be it's going to be a huge concert. If anyone wants to talk about masks in public spaces, I think that would be a good opportunity to bring it up for number 39, Garth Brooks. And I'm sorry. And so Garth Brooks just had a concert in Kansas City, And I believe the Kansas City, either mayor or city council said, if you attended the Garth Brooks concert and are not vaccinated, you need a quarantine for 2 weeks because you were likely exposed to COVID. So we can even use that as an example. People are already talking about, this is gonna be a super spreader event. Like we can see this one coming. Oh, Elvis
Brian
Costello,
just
sorry.
pointed out. Yeah, that's, okay, Garth is at
So yeah,
Memorial
okay.
Stadium.
I got too excited about Garth Brooks. You're right, it is Elvis Costello, but it's the Memorial Park. I believe number 39 is basically allowing for the permits at Memorial Park. And I feel like this would be the opportunity to be like, hey, yeah, you're right. It was Garth Brooks in Kansas City. Thanks, Zach.
All right, 31 million in sewer bonds. It's number 42, speaking of money for that sort of thing. Oh, and then TIF, everyone's favorite topic. Number 47, 1.2 million almost in TIF requests at 69th and F, I think it was, for semi-truck parking and a warehouse and storage. Like, I don't know about that, but that was the end of my notes. Yes, Louise.
Do you guys know that Omaha pays a permit to pollute the Missouri River with human sewage?
No, I
We're
didn't know.
actually polluting the Missouri River beyond what is allowed by the feds and the state of Nebraska.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and so but the city is allowed to because they have a permit.
And so that's like what normal operating procedures, not like, and not July 10th when they lost power and they had to divert sewage to the, but you're saying just normal everyday.
Right now, there's sewage going in there that is allowed by a special permit.
Yeah,
That's a very special permit.
that's downriver.
Ugh.
Yeah, and it doesn't get diluted until past Kansas City.
Sick. All right, well, that's a fun note to end on.
Yeah.
Does anybody have a non-shit related closing statement they'd like to make? Ah. All right, well,
Thanks for hosting. This was great.
yeah. Cindy, yeah, you wanted to say something about
I don't know.
something.
I mean, it's not like super urgent, but I don't know how to go about it. So I'm curious. Okay, so my kids, we are in Millard and my oldest just started at Millard North High. And that's a cluster as far as, the parking and accessing the school and things like that. And I already knew that because I'd helped pick up for other people in the past. But I noticed that, and I noticed during the summer, and I kept thinking it was going to be done before school started, but the developer has been really getting that applied parkway finished up that connects Dodge to Pacific, but there's no sidewalks. And the sidewalks don't connect with the school outside of the football field to anything. And so when I went to pick up my son today, I noticed all these kids, because it was the first day for the whole school. They're just milling about and running across the street and getting in people's cars from all directions. There's not going to be a way for people to cross to get from the one side of the sidewalk. It's a mess. I wished there was a way to like take a drone, like from a top-down view to see what was happening. And I thought that the developers had an arrangement that they would make it right for the school because the school was giving up. I know Boys Town was involved as well, but I'm just wondering, taxpayers shouldn't have to make them build these sidewalks. That should have been part of the whole bid, right? That we
Interesting.
gave them this access to this land. I'm wondering how that works, because there's like a long stretch of street where they put trees, but there's no sidewalk.
Is it on so you're saying by Millard North, is it on the east or west
Parkway.
side? Okay.
It's on the west side of the school, and it actually is going there's going to be businesses and things over there too.
Yeah.
but right now there's a sidewalk that just ends.
There's a senior citizen apartments just put in there too, assuming they don't ever walk
Oh.
outside.
Yeah, there's no way. I mean, and then the sidewalk coming from the school is just on one side and there's parents pulling up. So there were kids. I don't know how many of you guys have kids, but it's like a big thing where they shouldn't be crossing into the cars going back and forth, pulling up to drop off. They should all be on the right side of the sidewalk and have a crosswalk if they need to go across.
Yeah.
And there
I-
isn't one. I mean, it's dangerous. I just today watched kids and one car screeched to a stop because it was a young person that wasn't paying attention and she had headphones in, and it's a mess.
I
And
would
I think that
it's still being, I'm sorry, I'm pleading ignorance because I'm not super familiar with what all's happening at that area, but I would either contact the city, your city council person, and ask like, what's up with that and why are they getting away with not putting in sidewalks? It's not just because it's during the construction, it's already done and they've just not done sidewalks. Is that what you're saying?
the street is done, the curb is done, they planted trees.
And no
Like a
sidewalks.
row of trees, but there's no
Yeah.
sidewalk. And I kept thinking all summer, because
Yeah.
we had stuff over in that area, and I'm like, when are they gonna get this done? Because I would be
Yeah.
picking my son up like down the road. I would have him walk on the sidewalk
Yeah.
and go a little bit
Yeah.
further away,
Yeah.
but it's dangerous.
That I wonder if
Without
anyone at the
crosswalks.
school also, like, I feel like and I mean, we could, maybe scheme a little bit more about this with like the mode shift walkability team or something, but what
If you're ever out this way, I'd love to just drive over there with you.
yeah.
I talked to a friend and she's like, oh, it's been a mess forever. It's just the way it is.
No,
Like
I've never liked
parents-
just the way it is answers.
parents
Yeah.
deal with that.
Yeah.
But this is all brand new. And so it should be
Yeah.
top of the line and accessible from the start.
Yeah. That's what exactly. And like what Brian just popped in there as far as like West Farms being mixed use and like good partners to the neighborhood, if that's part of that kind of development, yeah, that really doesn't make any sense. I would also think that you could get a lot of leverage from like getting all the school moms and dads and parents and guardians together to pressure them. But also I would definitely email your city council person and just be like, what the heck is up with this? I know that Omaha doesn't think strongly about, but the bike ped master plan, there you go. You could tie it into that if you wanted to bring it up at city council on Tuesday. Thanks, Spencer. You have a good weekend too. We're about ready to wrap it up here.
Okay.
But yeah,
just-
I think that that's a good point to bring up because that does seem really stupid and short-sighted and not that surprising, unfortunately. No requirements for sidewalks and pedestrian-friendly development as right now. Yeah, so that's something else that MoShift, our walkability team just met last night. Yes, last night, and we're talking about trying to get Omaha to recognize sidewalks as part of the transportation system and then mandate, maintenance and that sort of thing. So
They're not?
no, definitely not.
But there was one win. They finally put in crosswalks at 72nd and Dodge, which was huge.
Painted them finally.
Cindy has been trying for years to get them, and they kept saying, no, it's a state highway. No, we don't want to encourage drivers from slowing down, and we don't want to
It's not
and then
warranted.
And specifically the mayor, I just sent this video to you, Cindy, on Twitter. The mayor specifically said that crosswalks give children a false sense of security, basically equivalent to crosswalks kill children. So yeah, check I just DM'd you the video. It's still, so she's been anti-crosswalk for a while, specifically. And so where do they put them? Next to schools and churches.
It makes no sense in this town, which is why I'm glad
And
you're
that's
all here.
also,
so we can
that's also
commiserate.
backed up by Todd Fitzer. She always asks Todd, is that study correct? And he's the engineer that says, yep, I found a study from 1980.
Yeah, it's the early 80s. It's so
that
dumb.
said that crosswalks give children a false sense of security.
Yeah, okay, Kimmy just said, Begley also said that at a Blackstone meeting, saying Public Works told him this. Okay, so that's the other thing that we talked about in our walkability team meeting last night is we're gonna reach out to the Blackstone BID to make sure that they understand that that is not true and that we can all do a walk together and get a feel for how terrible it is and then make better recommendations than what Public Works is saying, because they are using studies from the 80s that have since been proven untrue and basically like gaslight the community into think, yeah, it's not good. It's really not good.
So when that walk is done, will it be videotaped?
We are gonna be videoing it, yeah.
Can I ask you to do a drone I saw something that was for a totally different topic, but it was really helpful to look from above to see what was happening from that kind of eagle eye perspective. And I mean, that might be helpful.
Yeah, I do know somebody with a drone. That's not a bad idea. Brian, you got your hand up. What's up?
Yeah, if you talk to Blackstone, don't forget to pull up what Jeff Speck told us a few years ago when he was in town.
Which is he's never coming back to Omaha because we don't listen and our public works department's a bunch of dorks.
Right. But Jeff Speck probably knows a little bit more about this stuff than our public works department.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
he's current.
Yes. All right, I'm going to stop recording, I think, and then we can, unless anybody else has anything else they want to say to the rest of the group. Otherwise, see it's all on the 17th.
On the off chance that anybody can do something about this, can we get the road off of the sidewalk?
That's bonkers. Where is that? Have you filed a report on the mayor's hotline?
Yeah, I did once already. That's part of Saddle Creek on the sidewalk at Saddle Creek. This is in front of the Boss Apartments. Get your road off my sidewalk.
Yeah, that's crazy. Maybe now they'll classify it as transportation because it's got a street on it. Oh, wow, that's wild. Okay, that's another sad note to end on, but we are going to hit stop now. And 2 o'clock, Tuesday, 17th at City Hall. They will be voting on approving the amendments to the budget. Hashtags for these things online. I don't know. I do hashtag council club. And then I have like a little link tree too that I add to the recording. I'm still making it up as I go along, but yeah, hashtag council club. All right, I'm hitting stop and then we can talk more.